Dun, 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 dun. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another episode of Fans of the Boys. We, of course, diving into episode 6 tonight, The Bloody Doors Off, which revealed so many wonderful things and had some really astounding performances. We got a lot to get into. Let's get, of course, our introductions out of the way. Coming over here from the East Coast, right over here on this side of me, from a dawn of ice and fire. I can get that out right. It's Mr. Don Willie.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Listen, I am so glad to be here. And how's about while we talk about this, we enjoy
Ah,
ice cold
so,
fresca.
so refreshing. All right, and of course, from the middle of our country, it's the middle of the screen, right down here below us. From Smirking Gun Reviews, it is Rob Stone.
All right, yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. So happy to be here. As of course, not to be beaten. Let's just crack open this fresca here. Hang on. I need to know what's in this to make everybody want to go to the church. Really? Okay.
Yeah, well, it's refreshing.
It's it's a bit of something.
Yeah, it goes in your mouth and you can swallow it.
It's
So,
wet. It's cold.
Yeah, there you go. That's all. And we've killed Don over on the screen. All right. So, as I was saying, we are talking about episode 6. Can you believe it? There's only 2 episodes left of the season. But this was a big one. Hey, Envy, we've got us joining in the chat right now. Envy Warren. Hey, hey, hey. Oh, great. He's going to have to find himself some fresca there as well. Good. Everybody needs to be enjoying our beverage of choice here for whatever reason. Refreshment may not be the best one. But yes, we are going into episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off. A lot of information dropped here. And really, I think we got to some really amazing setup and performances. One of the big things that I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about is Shawn Ashmore as Lamplighter. Just before we go off of anything, Shawn in this episode, I think, brilliantly shows us why the superhero genre has gotten its boost the moment that we start putting really good actors in it. Shawn, of course, from X-Men, playing Bobby Drake. Also was in The Following with Kevin Bacon, did an amazing job with that. Even had a little own video game with him fronting in Quantum Break. So Shawn's been around for a really long time. And what we see here really is the reasons why you have quality performers. There's so much subtlety that he brought in with his performance. I think it really boosted everything up. It really boosts the performance up. It boosts the storytelling up. It boosts the quality. And when you can have actors already an amazing cast that get guest spots like this that can really bounce things back and forth, I think was just astounding. Plus, of course, we get our little background more, not only on what he's been doing, but Stormfront's plan, really where she's from and what she is looking forward for doing. So tons of stuff to get into today, plus, of course, the whole Frenchie background. So let's just start things off with some brief impressions. Don, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what you thought about this week's episode?
Well, first off, it was a wild ride. The whole everything inside of Sage Grove. From them recognizing Lamplighter, Stormfront showing up, Mr. Love Sausage. You know, oh my God, Christina, of course. Yeah, man, and just everything that went on there. We had Starlighter and Butcher bonding over Huey. Uh, wow, never thought we would see those two get along at all. And look, how can we not forget about the opening? The
Oh.
opening
Oh yeah.
with Stormfront and Homelander, and sexy time in an alley after crushing a man's head. I don't, I mean, like, you can only get wilder from there. You can't get more tame after that. So yeah, that was interesting, and the whole thing with Frenchie,
Yeah.
very
Oh
very
yeah.
sad indeed. But yet revealing this is something that they touched on in season one with the whole stick to the plan thing, and now we know what the plan was that he didn't stick to, and the consequences behind that. So yeah, crazy.
Yeah. All right, Rob, what's your thoughts on this week's episode?
This is definitely my favorite episode since the first three. Of the next three that we've seen, this is my favorite. I like it was such good character work. There was so many. Everybody got a chance to do something in this episode. Kamiko, Karen Fukuhara does so much without saying a word, and in this, her face is saying so much in this. All the entire episode. Again, like I like to quote some of my favorite lines, like I started last week. There's just so many, like just the look between Butcher and Kimiko when they're watching Homelander and Stormfront and their little interview, and he's like, "They're fucking," like that look that they share with each other. When Huey's giving Starlight the tour of their little domicile, and he's like, "Oh, the rats are like Pokemon with Hep C." And there's just like so many good lines. But yeah, Sean Ashmore, he's a veteran actor. I remember first seeing him like back in Smallville, and he hasn't aged much, but he did, so he's got that kind of that curse to be young look. But he does so much again with the eyes and in the emotion that he can give you without saying a word. And then when he does speak and you get to feel the haunted pain that he feels from his life, that he's not just the face that they show, like the one with the hood on and the staff and the fame, that after what happens, you can just see it on his face that this is not somebody that's living the high life, that's living like the rest of them. Why he's there, we don't know. Maybe he chose it. But also, the Starlight Butcher stuff was great. Frenchie's my favorite character, so I really like seeing more about the weight that he's carrying as well that nobody knew. Him and Lamplighter's story, is very tied closely together because of this one event. And both of them are carrying this weight for all these years that nobody knew about, and with the deep bringing A-Train into the Church of the Collective, just keeps making, they just keep portioning out that little bit. I think that's got to carry over probably into season 3, the way that they're parceling it. That's the word I want to use. Parceling out a little bit at a time. I think that we're going to see a lot more of that in season 3, because it feels like in the next 2 episodes, they won't be able to cover all of that, what's really going on there. But all in all, just all around, just a fantastic episode, leading into like what is going to be the penultimate next week. I mean, we talk about it being 2 episodes, but it's literally usually the biggest stuff happens in the penultimate episode. Yeah. The last episode is always kind of a setup for, a little bit of a mini end, so that the first episode is where we are at now. So whatever happens next week is going to be crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's excellent point. Excellent point there, Rob. Want to be sure to say hi in the chat to Wes and Rena joining us live.
Wes,
Appreciate you all
Rena.
being here. Also, apparently, this is the exact time that the U.S. presidential debate is happening. So
Fake news.
we are just going to start
It's not
arguing
happening.
throughout all this. Yeah, and interrupting. So appreciate you guys being here. You're always going to catch highlights. Do you really think there's going to be a difference between what you know they're going to say and what they're actually going to say?
We know that everything that they're going to say lies.
Nope.
It's all fake. None of it is real. You can't trust them, especially because they're on the media, and we all know the media is the enemy of the public.
That is actually the first lesson, even in the YouTube creators handbook here. When you join up on YouTube, is they tell you you're in the media now, you have to lie. So I guess I don't like the show. No, that's not true. That's not true. All right. So yes, anyway, just wanted to say welcome to everyone for joining us live and saving your brain from what must be going on some of the other channels right now. That's right. You can catch it all up later. So yeah, let's dive into our Sage Grove story initially. Do want to spend a little time talking about Lamplighter because I think you're right, Rob, when you mentioned up the structure of this episode is kind of perfect in the sense of they're answering our big story. What is it that happened to break up the boys beforehand? What was Lamplighter's role? What was it that Frenchie went off the plan about? And the fact that we get Lamplighter's real introduction in this episode, and it focuses so much on that particular instant. How much, and again, it's sort of a recurring theme of how much this has haunted everyone. We've seen what it's done to Frenchie and Mother's Milk, and certainly what had happened to Mallory. But now we get to see how it's affected Lamplighter. And this is someone who we're programmed to call Soup's villains. We're programmed to see it. That's certainly how Butcher looks at everyone and everything, which is in a way why it's actually kind of cool that we get the whole like Butcher Starlight side story bonding over Huey in this too. It is, we are overcoming our expectations. We are overcoming what we our believed perceptions are. And I think they do this again beautifully, wonderfully, and with so much eye work. In the sense of that's where the stories are told. I think we've talked about, I mean, I've mentioned several of the scenes before have been those quieter scenes where stories are told between people without any words, between Frenchie and Butcher when they are on the boat waiting for the FBI to show up. And Butcher makes the comment to Mallory that he could take care of Kimiko if she stands in the way. And you get those great little moments there. And here, every moment where you're trying to hate Lamplighter and you see those eyes suddenly hold for just a moment and soften, you suddenly realize this guy hates every moment of his existence right now. All he wants is to die. And that is such a thing that we don't expect again, especially transfixed with the murder porn that we have going on between Stormfront and Homelander. So I really do enjoy how they did the whole structure of this. This is our overcome, and you're right, because we're about to end. This is all of the moving pieces, and now what we might have Lamplighter as as an ally. Would we ever have expected that? All right, so yeah, dive in, guys. What is our Lamplighter fix? And also even and we can start going into the whole plan too of why Lamplighter is there. Rob, lead us off, man.
Well, with Lamplighter, yeah, we're built in to not like him, and we know that clearly he probably, he's being forced into this like everybody else. He's chosen this life. So, I mean, again, like, me about this is that you made your deal with the devil and now you have to pay. And he's paying a hard, heavy price with his conscience. Now, if he feels that bad, why not take yourself out? Unless he's worried that maybe they've got, he has family maybe that they would go after if he were to not do what they say. Because in the hospital, when she has him just with a look, let him know that he needs to take out this guy who's failing to cooperate. You can tell that he's got this look of regret on his face of just like, if I don't do this, I'm dead, or who knows who else. And, maybe a bunch of people I know could end up dead. It also shows the level of fear that he has for Stormfront. But also, as far as what he's doing there and gathering up like this experiment, creating this experiment that Vought is doing, making their own superpowered army. They had experiments with the babies, but now they're trying to do it where this is anybody can become a student. And there's something going on with the sound.
Yeah, I've been noticing the chat for my sound was dropping out.
Oh, okay.
Is that sounding better now?
Oh yeah, that's really good.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason my mic settings dropped to nothing.
But
the technical issues that we get to have. So much fun.
As far as it sounds to me like he didn't tell the 7 about killing the kids. They have this whole debate of like, why didn't you stop me? Why wasn't there any fallout from this?
Right.
Because he tries to say it's because you guys aren't worth it. But the truth is, he doesn't want them to know that what he did because he feels guilty about it. If Homelander senses guilt, he'll be gone. He won't just be, and actually more likely Stormfront would take him out, or whatever else is,
Oh, okay. Yes, what you're saying.
Stormfront has held back all of this from Homelander. He doesn't know anything about, like, she lets him in on her plan, right? The big plan, but she didn't tell him anything about what her and Vought have been doing at Sage Grove.
Right.
All he knows is that she wasn't at the tower. And then she gives up all this other information. So they're still holding back on him. He still doesn't know all of that. So I love how when she arrives, she is just like a little Mengele. She's just sitting there like all of a sudden she's a soup doctor, scientist who's just there to be like, oh, yes, okay. It's really, really dark stuff. And with Frenchie's whole thing mixed in there of having to save a friend who just ends up dying anyway. The guilt that he carries over that he chose friendship over his duty.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as weird as Frenchie is, like in Causing Chaos, we know that he liked to rob banks and things like that. But he was also, he was trying to take down Soups before he was in The Boys with that whole weaponized Xanax thing, which I thought was great. Talking about how you take out a rage monster with Xanax. Brilliant. So even before he was with The Boys, he was causing chaos for the superhero community. And that, he does have this weird kind of sense of right and wrong. I think part of it seems weird because he's always like high to the gills on something. But I don't know. As far as the rest of that goes, I mean, yeah, we have the super powered people. The one that looks like 11 from Stranger Things that you mentioned. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that has to be a nod to that show.
Very much so. I mean,
like maybe they purposely found somebody who already had that look, but
doesn't he even call her Stranger Things?
Oh, does he? I usually keep the subtitles on just to like catch little words that I might miss.
Right.
But I didn't have it on this time. But Don, I don't know. I'm running out of things to talk about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Don.
I was gonna say, I've got some things to talk about, but finish your thoughts first, and
No,
then
it's okay.
no, I mean, Darren, finish your thoughts.
Oh no. I was just talking about. I think that's depending on how we do that. I think that would be kind of an interesting thing to look into is how the regrets our setup for this episode, because we do have the regret again of Frenchie. He's having to make this choice between his friends and his mission, and I don't even think that he was necessarily even on board with what was going on with the threats to Lamplighter right there, because there definitely seems some blackmail. We didn't get to see what the pictures were. We weren't getting to see what that information was. But I mean, they're working Lamplighter, and so in some ways it makes sense where Lamplighter might strike back. But of course, he tries to go after, we find out, no, it was never the kids. It was Mallory that he was trying to go after. And that would sort of make sense. Oh, you're going to try and come after me? Well, I will come right back after you. And yet he gets the regret of, I didn't identify my target, I guess. I just ran by emotions and just fried a room. Or again, we don't know necessarily the specifics of how all of that went down. And I don't think that it's really necessary. But
yeah, if he had told anybody about that they had first gotten anything on him,
right?
Second, that he was compromised and was going to work for them, he decided to take care of this himself. He's not like prepared. He doesn't know. I don't think he did. He just went there. He probably didn't do a lot of research into her life. Somebody who's going to properly take somebody out would figure out schedules, when people are, who comes and goes, all that stuff. But
is that the arrogance of the soup? Like, oh, well, I can just do this. I'm a member of the Seven. I'll just step out. And yeah, there wasn't much time because Mallory sends Frenchie to follow him. Frenchie follows him into the party. He gets the call that he's got to go save his friend from ODing. It's a half hour, I think he says all times. And in that, Lamplighter goes and burns Mallory's kids. So there isn't a whole lot of time in between all of that. So
yeah, because he knew that Frenchie had dropped the tail, and he saw his window of opportunity.
Right.
So, however, he found out where she lived. Once he saw that, he was like, "Well, it's now or never," because they're not watching me. And that level of just him thinking that he could get, fix all this on his own, and ended up making it so much worse. And then inadvertently shutting down the boys, and then putting himself in this position of he lost being part of the Seven and now has to work for Stormfront at Sage Grove, babysitting Soups, for these more evil, nefarious goals, and would continue to do so if they hadn't shown up.
Yeah.
And
and Envy in the chat is mentioning that that Lamplighter did say that he didn't look first when he fired off, and yes, that's right. Thanks, Envy, for reminding us. Sorry, go right ahead.
But that's about it.
Yeah.
Don.
All right, so this whole thing with Lamplighter told us a number of things. One, that the timeline for how long he was in the Seven, because remember, Lamplighter, when we were in the very first episode of season 1 of The Boys, Lamplighter was supposedly just retiring out, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So The Boys, I would say, it's supposed to take place over maybe a few months to a year. And remember, the whole Frenchie and Lamplighter thing was 8 years ago, right? When that instance happened. Well, no, that was 8 years ago when Frenchie joined the boys. So we're not exactly sure how long it was that
in between those two moments, yeah.
So let's say about 5 years, right? let's say about 5 years, because remember, Homelander still had no idea that Butcher was after him until last season, right?
Right.
And you got to think, how long, after the events of him burning the kids, did they decide, okay, you know what, we're gonna, transition you out of the 7, and you're going to Sage Grove? Because now this also has me thinking that the mastermind uh, is not Stan Edgar. The mastermind is actually Stormfront. I was thinking that Stan Edgar was Fred Vought.
Right.
That's out the window. I think the mastermind, like, Stan Edgar is in his actual position, but remember, Stormfront was married to Fred Vought.
Yes.
That technically speaking, she is the one is the owner of that whole enterprise. She's 101 years old, right? Or she's the leader of that whole enterprise, at least. She's 101 years old, and I'm thinking what probably happened was, when they set up the whole Sage Grove thing, they were like, you know what, we need a way to be able to dispose of, undesirables or whatever may have you. All right, who do we have with fire abilities? You got Lamplighter. All right, cool. You know what? Yeah, we can use him. He's probably, they probably figured something was off with him after what happened. He's probably just been kind of floating around for years with them not knowing what's wrong with this guy. One day he's Mr. Flashy and doing all these press runs, and now all of a sudden he's always running around depressed as all hell. Not good for the public image. We'll retire him out of the 7. He's done he's been there for at least 5 years or more. All right, cool. Here, you don't have to be the public eye anymore, but you still have to do this stuff for the Vought Corporation, or else. Because think about it: if Mallory had whatever it was she had to blackmail him with, pretty sure Vought has the same information as well. And so what I'm thinking is, he was getting squeezed from both sides by the time that we see him at Sage Grove. The boys aren't after him anymore, as far as he knows, but Vought still has the same thing over him that the boys did, which is why he's been cooperating all this time, because he really hasn't had a choice.
Well, I don't really see Vought as a kind of corporation that lets you sort of just walk away anyway. I mean, and I could certainly see them saying it's like, look, you're obviously not here with it. We've been putting you out in a couple missions. You don't do things. You're not looking great on your personal appearances. I mean, even from just a corporate standpoint, how they'd be like, all right, so we're just going to retire you. But we still have stuff that you want, that we need you to do. So you can go and be whiny over here in the corner and just do the stuff that we want. And we'll go ahead and fill you. Because again, especially with the 7, that's the flagship. Everything's got to look all bright and shiny on that one. Sorry, I didn't mute my phone. How unprofessional of me. And I'm just winning tonight. So I mean, I think just even from a control point, that's probably how they would just sort of shuffle him off. But again, I don't think they let anybody go. It's not like they'll just let him retire. Now, Wes in the chat brings up an interesting idea. He's talking about possibly 2 separate parties. What if Stormfront is pulling a Hydra tactic within Vought? Of course, Wes, double points for using a shield reference there. But I think that that's an excellent little point right there. Is you could have Vought doing one thing. We should have Stan Edgar that has his plans for how he wants to adjust stuff, and we could have Stormfront. Now, Stormfront talks about this big plan at the end, and I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here. Talks about her plan with Homelander at the end is the full Nazi agenda. We're making soups that are going to keep our race the strong one, and it's going to be all made to order type stuff, and we want you to lead. Now, I can see where Edgar maybe not be on the whole master race thing, but definitely on the power end of things. So I am wondering if there are those two agendas, that Vought is trying to do all these experiments because he wants to be able to sell a compound V that will change an adult, boom, like that with no side effects. Whereas Stormfront wants the same thing, but just wants to be sure it's only given to a certain select group of people.
Right.
So I think that may end up being a real interesting kind of, two powerful forces going after the same things for kind of different reasons.
Well, and that's what I was saying. I think that Stormfront is actually, the brains behind a lot of this stuff. Yes, Stan Edgar has his own agenda, but seeing how Stormfront has been there for so long and has been so integral to everything that's going on, that people don't even realize that she may have been a part of. It's like, okay, yeah, all you're doing is helping further my agenda, and you're not even realizing. And one other thing I would like to point out, apart from the story, I gotta give a shout out to whoever the casting director is, because brilliant move to have Aya Cash play Stormfront. Because here you have a woman of Jewish descent playing a Nazi, and now actual neo-Nazis in real life cannot use her as propaganda for recruitment. Bravo.
Yeah. Oh, no. The show, yeah. The brilliance of this show keeps reinforcing itself. I guess so much to the point where they've already talked about they're doing a spin-off about soups, young soups in college. Hey, man, it's a YA or YS. I don't know how you would actually classify that. I don't know. We don't need to get into that, though. I do want sort of a quick thought of, we're watching The Boys, which is about showing how much soup sucks. Do we want to see a show where we are rooting for soups?
Interesting. That could be interesting.
Was this Young Injustice? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're going to be scheming against each other, and there's going to be the boys' intensity and humor mixed in with it. But I don't know. I think every streaming service is looking for whatever is going to work. So if Amazon has the Soupiverse, the Boysiverse, okay, I guess we'll go with that. So yeah, we've got some definitely very scary ideas going on here from Stormfront, and you're right. It is awesome that they use a Jewish actress.
I don't know if I'd give up the ghost just yet about Stan Edgar and him not being Vought. I don't know if I get what you're saying about two different goals, but I just feel like it's either a really big ruse that you bring in Giancarlo Esposito to come in and be the heavy and then pull the rug out from our under eyes saying, guess what? It's not him. It's really her. But I mean, wouldn't it be, what if he, like we've talked about this, I think it was a while ago though, that what if he's got powers too? And
right.
What if his power is more like doppelgangers? And what better way to hide being a Nazi is if you want to look like a distinguished African American or El Salvadorian. I think what nationality Giancarlo is.
He's half black, half Italian.
Okay, yeah. To look like the enemy, to really blend in. Why not look like, you can just. But I'm just saying, like, I just feel like unless that is a complete red herring that he's not the real bad guy. I mean, of course, Stormfront is the real bad guy. I just don't know if I buy that Vought doesn't know. Like, why would they even bring her out? Like, why suddenly introduce her if, again, after being Liberty, if like Stan Edgar he knows a lot. He's got a lot going on. He's got Black Noir as his drone. He's always in on a lot of stuff. Like, he's got the knowledge. I just don't know. I don't know.
Well, and obviously he knows. He's got to know who Liberty is because he's been here. I mean, even as the Stan Edgar persona, if we're saying that he might be Vought or whatever, but I mean, as Stan Edgar, he's been there long enough in a position of power to know things. I think he even said that he'd worked with Vought. So you're right. You bring up an interesting thing about powers, because when Stormfront is telling the story about Vought and being the Nazi and developing things, she makes a comment where Oppenheimer was working on the bomb, but Vought already had superheroes to order. The Soldier Boy is, I think, one of the names that Giancarlo throws, or that Edgar throws out there at one point. So they have been making soups. I mean, Project Compound V was there. I mean, maybe the soups at that point were just the ones that didn't die. Here, we'll give them to 10 people, and if 5 of them survive and become superheroes, great, or 3 or whatever, since he was doing all these experiments. Had obviously already experimented on his wife before or after became a wife. I don't remember when he had said that. But yeah, if he is getting older, if he is wanting to go into hiding, what if he took a Compound V experimental drug to change who he was, to give himself youth, and the side effect is it made him look different? Maybe even intentional or not intentional. And so he's helping to run this whole program, not only, again, just to get the money and the power of what having soups, in a bottle can bring you, but maybe he's also looking for another boost of some sort. Because if you're looking to make powers, it's one thing to look for just a Compound V that is going to be stable and an adult can make. But what if you could tweak it and give you the powers that you want? Here's a shot of flight. Here's a shot of super speed. Here's a shot of a combination of these, electricity, bending, and invisibility, or whatever. I mean, if I was a pharmaceutical company and I was going to be killing people and having Lamplighter burn them to figure out what a stable compound is, I may also want to see if I could figure out, can I give the superpowers that I want in this shot, or is it always going to be just a random a selection of powers once it comes up?
Yeah, because I don't think Stormfront's powers are random at all. Because just because she has electricity, she can fly, she's super strong. Mm-hmm. Why would she be super strong if she has electricity? Like, like Starlight isn't, doesn't just have her power and she can run really fast. You know what I mean? She just has the one thing. The Deep has the one thing. A-Train has the one thing. She's got like 3, like she can heal. She's got like 4, possibly more powers than that.
Right. I mean, all soups are strong, and all soups have a certain, tough skin and whatever. They can all be shot. Annie can be shot with a 50 caliber and not be killed. But yeah, outside of the strength thing, you're right. She has multiple unrelated powers. How is age and flight and electricity? How are any of those things related?
Right. I mean, and the only other person that we've seen so far with multiple powers, Homelander. Because
Right.
Homelander's got the heat vision, he's got flight, he's got super strength, and pretty sure he's got super durability as well. So yeah, he's the only other person that we've seen with multiple powers other than Stormfront.
Right. And his whole raise, the whole he was raised. I mean, obviously, Soldier Boy from World War II and such. They just gave an adult a shot. Hey, you survived. You have powers. Go on out. At some point, they obviously decided to start with kids. Was he the first, or was he the first of a particular line of experiments? Because he was the only one that was raised all by himself, that was in a lab. I mean, it is very particular. So if maybe they were trying a mix of compounds and seeing how this would develop inside of a boy, that might be a little bit more of an explanation than just randomly paying some parents some money and saying, yeah, it'll do something.
Now, did they talk about them working with the government when the World War II was over? Because if they weren't part of Operation Paperclip, then how the heck did they come over here from Germany to just start their own company, unbeknownst to the American government?
No, I think they were part of Operation Paperclip, and yeah, their whole thing was just setting up pharmaceuticals.
Sure. Well, I think it was actually before, because Paperclip, it was post World War II when they took the Nazi scientists and split them up between us and the Soviet Union. He came over beforehand. He mentions, or she mentions, something around the time of that, seeing how things were going, he came over to the other side, because specifically put it out, made that comparison to Oppenheimer, which is happening all in 1944 and such, while they're developing the nuclear bomb, the atomic bomb at the time, that he already had these powers, was already using them for the government to fight back against the Nazis. So I think at a point, either prior to World War II or in the midst of World War II, is when Vought went, I'm going to come over to America. And the Americans went, great, we'll wipe your slate clean and have you just give us your stuff, how we can fight the Nazis.
Yeah, and Wes and also Envy just brought that up in the chat.
Yeah, I was rewatching it and had to stop right before I got back to that conversation that Homelander and Stormfront had. So I was a little more foggy on some of those details.
Now, since we do have Homelander being set up as this sort of, Nazi god, was he designed that way? As we're saying, came out blonde hair and blue eyes, Nazi poster child. That is sort of perfect. And if Stormfront is now saying, hey, this is great, you are the one to lead us, and maybe she hasn't pushed that point until they got the Vought compound so they could have more of their soups on their sides, and he's supposed to be the leader. Maybe that makes sense for all the planning. What my thought is will Homelander go with it? I mean, he's obviously like Stormfront, but he is also very petulant. I mean, he gets the flowers and he's waiting for her, and then she doesn't show up, and he nukes the site. I mean, just burns the trailer and everything around it to the ground. And then throws back the fact that she wasn't there. Do you think that he may not go along with her plan?
Well, no, because you know what, he's going to go along with the plan because of the fact that so far, when it comes to the media stuff, she's been right.
Right.
He at this point he's not playing the game that he used to play, where it's I want everyone to love me. He's now diverted to the way that she said, "Hey, no, just get your." your 5 million soldiers and we're good. And now it's like, hey, well, yeah, if the plan is to get the soldiers and basically take over the world, and you want me to be the leader, yeah, let's go for it.
Sure.
So yeah, he's definitely down for that, and she might be feeding him a line, but he's falling for it. He's falling
Sure.
for it.
Okay. Rob, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, he, like I've said before, he's the guy who would break his toys rather than share them. Who does, if there's a bunch of him, will he like that? Will he like, he, of course he wants to lead, like he wants to be, top dog. If there's a bunch of him, won't that bother him? Wouldn't it bother his ego and his very fragile ego? I mean, he couldn't even sit there for a little while without her. That he burned his own trailer down. It wasn't her trailer. It was his. He was so angry that he blew up his own trailer and then goes and checks in on her. And I think that he's along for the ride for now, but I don't think he'll be along for the ride forever. I think that there's a line that they're going to cross with him. Now, you're also right, though, about how he feels about the media, how he's feeling about regular people. We've seen him fantasize about taking everybody out. So on paper, yeah, this is right up his alley. Like, let's forcefully do this. He's the one who's come up with the ideas about America first, right? But America is starting to reject him. So there's something to be said for, that he would be on board with her little Nazi story, even though it should go against even what he stands for, unless he just doesn't really believe any of that. But he's a bigot. He's a racist. So
Totally.
So, I think there's going to be a line that they'll get to, and he'll not be wanting to play anymore on their side. He wants to be on his side, not share the plans of anybody else. It's going to come down to what he wants ultimately. He's going to hear what everybody's like, oh, well, we've done this and we're going to do that. And he's like, yeah, but this is what I want. I want to be like, because if Stormfront's she's seeing that fragile ego. She even said, like, oh, are you checking up on me? Like, yeah, I mean, she has not seen that. Like, he already killed the last lady that was into his life. And, maybe because she feels invulnerable, that she's just not prepared and seen all the levels of psychosis that really is underneath all of that, unbreakable body of his. It's his mind that's going to go first.
That's the thing. Wes is throwing out there in the chat. He's a god. Remembers conversation with his son. I mean, yes, he has all the elements of why he should go with it, but why did he kill Madeline? Because she was manipulating him.
Well, not only because she was manipulating him, but he finally realized that she was manipulating him because she was afraid.
Yeah. She was afraid and she was lying to him, and all that stuff is not what he's into. So, yes, he doesn't like regular people, and yes, he wants to be in charge, and yes, he wants to be worshipped the god, and all of these things are being put in front of Homelander in a way that would be perfect for him. But that's not interesting writing. Conflict is interesting writing, and I think they've given little hints that there's a point where he's going to push back. Either he's going to want to take over the plan, or he is going to be like, look, I don't like, you've been lying to me and you've been manipulating me, and I don't like that because I'm Homelander. So maybe his own arrogance and ego might be the thing that gets in the way and actually turns him against. Because I think he wants to be who everyone thinks he is. He wants to be that superhero. And if he finds that he's at a choice where he can be in charge and a god, or he can be everyone's hero, I think that's a really interesting conflict to put him in.
And also, this goes back, and now we're going down the rabbit hole, right?
Oh yeah, let's go.
We're 49 minutes in, now it's time to go down the rabbit hole, right? Going back to why I wanted to bring up why, Don, your idea of Vought and Edgar, the Edgar connection, is if, let's say he is Vought, technically, right? Wouldn't he still be married to Stormfront?
Mhm.
Right.
And if he found out that in the end, like, you've gotten us this far, but hey, this is my man, this is my real man here, Stan Edgar,
Mm.
that fragile ego, like all of a sudden the lies, the manipulations come out in that way where it would be over because he couldn't handle that kind of betrayal. Having to share anybody, even if she was like, it doesn't matter, I can still screw you and him, whatever. But again, like I said, it's all about, everything comes back to him. He has to be the one in charge. He has to be the one with the power. And even though they have this great plan, it's still their plan, not his.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, like, he has, you know, the perfect only child mentality of everything is mine. I'm not willing to share, you know, and to him, the world and all the people in it are his toys. You know, and if you want me to share my toys, I'd rather burn the entire world down than share my toys.
And it also explains that obsession, almost cross obsession that he has with Billy Butcher. Why would I, destroy something yet that I can have so much fun playing with whenever I choose to? I can keep ruining this guy's life as long as I want. The drawing out of that ecstasy he feels and causing other people's pain. It just all goes into that psychosis that just makes me feel like everybody keeps thinking they can play him. And again, because Anthony Starr is so good, right? That why wouldn't you want to see that come out? Like, I want him dead, but at the same time, I want to see him do all these things and like a very much like a super powered Heisenberg. I want him to just go after everyone that's in his way. And that includes the other bad guys.
Yeah.
They want to be the top spot. Nobody's tougher. Like, if you've seen stuff with like Injustice where Kal-El goes bad, no one is going to stop Superman. In the end, the buck stops at the big S. Here it's the big H. And I just don't see anybody's plans going any further than as far as he wants them to go. As soon as they cross that line with him, they're going to all regret it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that may be what we're looking at arc-wise through season 3. Like you were saying, this is kind of a setup season. You know, we had our introduction last. This is, okay, what happens afterwards? And now let's start setting up all of the pieces. Let's take our time and get everything all set up for where we can really go. Because, yeah, with this whole build, we're making soups. We're perfecting storylines. We've got a Nazi leader who is trying to get the new super Nazi to head things out. We have a potential, I wouldn't necessarily say inside man, because I don't know how inside Lamplighter is going to be, but definitely now a potential asset connected in. Plus, Butcher and Annie seem to have set their stuff aside, bonding over saving Huey together in kind of a perfect Butcher Annie way, which was all awesome. This is all just chess pieces laying out. And if our big reveal, what we get next week and setting up into is, okay, now we have the military contracts. We've got everybody trying to go after Homelander and Vought and get away between Maeve, which we haven't even talked about yet. And Deep's plan, plus whatever's going on with the church. It feels like we're going to have some giant move happen and then just chaos blow it into some completely unexpected direction. and the cleanup is and aftermath is going to be all of season 3. I don't know, maybe I'm just going off in some wild tangent on that, but this is all very careful. And like you said, you don't bring in Giancarlo Esposito for 4 scenes in a season. Okay, you bring him in to do big freaking stuff, and they've spent a lot of time with everyone else. I think we definitely need to have some serious time with Stan Edgar, and I think maybe that's what we're going to be able to see with that penultimate episode next week.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, oh man, well, you know what? We should talk about Maeve.
Let us talk about Maeve, because I think that is going to be an important hiccup in whatever plan is going on. Don, why don't you bring everyone in on Maeve here?
So first off, we have to talk about Brave Maeve's Pride Bar. Like at this point, she's like, you know what?
So bad.
I can't fight it. I might as well roll with the punches. So it's not that she's, bought into it, but she's just like, all right, fine. This is the way things are going. I'm not going to fight against it, and in fact, like the whole Brave Maeve Pride Bar literally looks like something that you would see like on the Lifetime channel as
and the tagline saying, "You can't be proud on an empty stomach."
That's so bad.
Yeah, man. And then we also have to talk about her interaction with Elena. Elena finding the video.
Yes.
The damning evidence. Where she's thinking, to herself, like, yeah, Elena should get this. I've already explained how dangerous Homelander is. And Elena just kind of gives it a look like, nah, bitch, you are part of this too. She gave her the coldest look. Like, no. You don't just get to throw this on Homelander. You let this happen. And May was like, look, I know I should have stood up to Homelander, but is Elena not recognizing that Homelander is way more powerful and could have killed Maeve? I think, part of the reason why Elena was so upset is not just the fact that she let a plane full of innocent people go down. Excuse me. But also, I think it's the fact that it's like, well, if this happened, what other terrible things may have happened that I have no idea about, that you've been keeping and you're just throwing it all on, oh, well, I had no choice. Homelander was making me do this.
Well, I think they leave an interesting point, right? I think that they leave, because we don't hear Elena's response, we just get that look. I think they're intentionally leaving that open, because in the video, there is the line where you hear Maeve saying, we can't leave them, just this one. Can you just grab this? You can hear Maeve fighting with Homelander about what is the right thing to do. And I think that was actually a brilliant directorial and acting choice, is to not let us understand Elena's reaction, because we could be stuck with, like you're saying, the look of, what have you done as well? You're part of this. Or is it the look of absolute horror and understanding and like, he's insane. You've been having to deal with this entire time with this crazy psycho that would let a plane die? I mean, I like the fact that they didn't tell us what of those responses that she has had, or is it even a third possible one? And I mean, personally, as from an audience of watching, I love the uncertainty of that. How did you read that, Rob?
Well, I mean, she had the moment that she's immediately trying to come up with I'm sorry's excuses, like right out the gate. Like it's one of those things where when somebody sees this, right, and the first you're gonna just feel is horror and rage and anger when you know that somebody like somebody that somebody you love was involved in something like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to hear automatically the please help the little one. This is a whole plane of people.
Sure.
And when she's saying like I should have stood up to him, and there's this moment, this great freaking acting moment where she says, and she uses her hands, I think, a little bit in this, where she's like, I had to watch a whole plane full of people die. And as soon as she said it, she immediately heard what she had just said to her, as in, I had to watch. The stress on I had to watch instead of I didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was like that. She realized how badly she should not have said it like that. Because it sounds like I had to watch. I had to watch a whole plane full of people die. Like it was like, come on, man, And it sounded like that. Yeah. It sounded like that. And she realized the mistake of how she sounded when she said it. And so I think, when you say that and her look to her is exactly what you're saying is that is a horrible way of putting it. And now it makes me wonder how, question how much of this, how many more things did you do? And are you kind of filling me a line of bullshit right now? Like, how do I know you're not going along with this?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have a messed up, you had a messed up relationship with this guy, but how many things did you can I trust that you weren't a willing participant for other things? Like, okay, this one time you see on video that you were trying to save a little girl, but all the other times, I don't know that in uncertainty. And you're right, not telling us what she's thinking and feeling in that moment is great, because then we have moments like we're having right now where we get to talk about it endlessly. But Maeve here, I really don't know how her showing this to Homelander is going to affect anything at this point.
Well, listen, you got to think about it like this. Knowing Homelander, Homelander might just kill Maeve and Elena.
Yeah.
Like, he's got Stormfront on his side, right? And it's like, okay, well, oh yeah, you got this incriminating video. Oh wow. All right, Stormfront, do me a favor. Here's Maeve's address. Go bring her girlfriend back here. Okay, so what were you saying about showing that video to whom?
Yeah.
And also, if they do just release it, that could just be the thing that pushes him over the edge. Or like, well, there ain't no coming back from this now. Once people see that, that's it for him. There's not going to be you can't spin that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like
you've got a bunch of dead people on the ground.
If he had laser-eyed all those people, we in a way, the show put us in a thought for that moment of, oh, he's totally screwed now, and then they pulled back. Who knows? Maybe that was just a hint of like, yeah, but if he did go off, what would he do? Would he just join in with the thing? Would he call it fake news? Would he say that it's computer generated? It's created by our enemies in order to. I mean, there's so much spin now that it could go in. You're right. I think Maeve thinks this is going to be like, oh, I'll show it to him. He'll realize that I have some evidence and he'll let me go. I don't think, again, Vought lets anyone go.
And, just like in our world, just because you have evidence of something doesn't mean anything. And it hasn't stopped Stormfront when she was confronted with the evidence of her past. She didn't even blink. It didn't stop one single thing. It was a nice try because it's them thinking that there's a way to stop them legally, or there's some line that they won't cross. For them there is no line. It's whatever thou willst do, they're going to do. And I think that this is going to be Maeve's lesson, and it might be, the final one that she learns, or something happens so bad that she'll be under his boot heel for good.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Because also Homelander could just go, well, you're on that too. Do you want to go down? America will hate you. You think they're going to let you go at this? I'm Homelander.
Yeah, and with Wes saying maybe Maeve joins up with Starlight, it's going to be, you better get that chip out now, girl.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're hitting about the hour point here. So I think we have dived in so much. Again, I had a feeling we weren't going to get into much more except for these couple of little discussion points. And that's why I love talking with you guys and everyone in the chat. You guys give us so much extra information. You clarify stuff if we're not sure. It's so important that you are here live in the chat. But that doesn't mean we don't love all of you that are watching in the archives. Thank you so much for coming and watching the show. Do want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe. We need to get that algorithm working in our favor. And, you can tell all your friends about us too. That would be cool. So, any last little thoughts, any last little impressions? And then why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find you? Don, let us lead off with you.
Well, let's see here. Crazy episode, like I said. I'm going to probably watch it again a couple more times to see if there's anything else I pick up on. Shawn Ashmore, great job. Anthony Starr, as always, petulant, impudent child that Homelander is. Great job. Again, shout out to whoever cast Aya Cash as Stormfront, because now your neo-Nazis can't use her for your propaganda, and joke's on you. Rob, why don't you take it away, sir?
Well, first I forgot to say I loved Butcher's line, never go in shock-infested waters without chum. The fact that A-Train's already in 7-figure debt, he had to sell the Prince guitar already. He just got that. Butcher scoping Starlight. Almost kill, that moment of I could take her out right now, and that wince of change inside him in that moment, which I think helps with their stuff, because we didn't get to talk about that. Starlight's a killer now, unintentionally.
Oh yeah,
Starlight's a killer now, so that's going to be a huge thing. And I mean, this was an incredible episode. And we always, like, if we really wanted to. Oh yeah, we didn't even get to talk about the dick around the neck.
Oh.
I loved Frenchie going, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
You should be more open-minded.
Yeah.
I'm going to just tell everyone that you are almost
we didn't get
by a giant penis.
Yeah, and 11, 11 on steroids is out there on the highway.
I love that they left with her, just like she's definitely off and free, and so I mean, there's that. That's a huge thing. She is out there. Stormfront might have slowed her down for a minute, but there's somebody out there that can just crush you with a hand gesture. So who knows what we could see with that. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun, where I'm continuing. I'm trying to pull back the reins of the insanity that's on there. You can find me on Twitch at Smirking Gun Plays, where right now we're playing Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy series. And that's a lot of fun. And then, of course, on my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, where we do old
Shield new reviews. We're on season 3, Lovecraft Country on Sundays. And, who knows? I never know. Other than those 2 things, you never know. I did put out my joke video about who I was endorsing for president. Hey, if you know Mystery Science Theater 3000 pretty good, then you'll like that video.
Awesome.
Otherwise, that's it for me.
Excellent. Also, so you can catch me here, D's Reviews. This is my channel, and of course, we're here for at least the next 2 weeks doing Fans of the Boys, and then end of the month, and I'm talking October, not September, even though we're technically still on that, we are going to be jumping into the Fandalorians. We're covering in the next... We'll have so much Mandalorian goofiness going on all around us. It's going to be a blast. But before that happens, this Sunday is the final finale. It's finally the finale of season 10 of The Walking Dead. So keep an eye on here. I will have a review drop for that afterwards. And then sometime next week, Rob and I are going to jump up on here and we'll have a big discussion of not only the finale, but all of season 10 of Walking Dead, and maybe dive into a few other little Walking Dead subjects there as well. So lots of stuff going on. Like I said, you can always catch me here, even though Don didn't say it. You can catch him over at A Dawn of Ice and Fire. It's right there, the title of his page. Doesn't have a lot of reviews right now because he's a sleepy man. He's just here for us. We get all of his attention. We're very excited about that. So thank you guys for joining us live here right now. Thank you for watching us in the archives. We hope to catch you here next week, where we will have a complete foursome box here with Mark from Enchantment of Eternity coming back and joining us. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. So thank you again, everybody, and we will catch you all next time. Bye-bye. And
Drink it, Fresca.
Later.